and welcome. Today is Tuesday, the 22nd of April. And I'm going to say this past week has been one of those weeks that makes it all worthwhile, keeps you going. On top of everything that has come up from week after week after week after week that is continuing, the self-worth stuff continues. The opportunities to keep stepping up continue. It all keeps happening. How do I guess the best way for me to try and explain what I've experienced this week is always in chronological order. And I think I've got a timeline. So I'm going to go back to like the 8th of this month. Randomly came across a video on my YouTube feed about a being called Abraxas, who I had never heard of before. I click on it. I'm like, I know this motherfucker. But the story that went with him felt like another inversion or distortion. So if you'd never come across this character, apparently not a lot is known about him. He was written about by one of the Gnostics, but most of the direct writings about him were destroyed. So what you've got is other people writing about those writings, something like that. And he is like the king of duality. He holds both good and evil in equal measure. And he's the God above the God of this world and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, so it was bringing up for me all the talk about the shadow. Now, Carl Jung is the one who came up with that term, the shadow, as far as I know. But whenever I heard people talk about the shadow, it always rubbed me the wrong way because the wording and the energy of it felt like, people saying the way they would say embrace your shadow, acknowledge your shadow, own your shadow, which always sounded like what they were saying was you are equal parts, dark and light. Own it. Be okay with your darkness. Every part of my being would just go, no, and just feel that whole thing was a propagandist lie, part of the duality. As long as you did that, as long as you were holding them both, you were stuck in duality. And it never felt right to me. Anyway, so he brings up all of that. So I'm playing with all of that since about the 8th. And then, as I mentioned last week, there was the physical 3D play out of taking on the theft, the harvesting, the inversion of the original creator's creations. I'm not going into details around how that looks or how that plays out, but it was playing out in 3D, and I knew it was a play out of the energetics of actually confronting the original inversion and those responsible for it. Can't explain it or go into detail, as I said, but that was my knowing. Then on the 17th, which is how many days ago? 5 days ago. I think that was last Thursday. Found myself in several conversations arguing for this business of we are equal, dark and light. We have to learn to hold. embrace, accept. I'm rejecting all that shit. Um, and the idea of there is only two choices in any situation. And it's like, no, there's not. There is a third way. There is always a third way. There's the Trinity, the triad feels more expanded, truer than this whole yes, no, up, down, left, right, right, wrong duality thing. There's always the Holy Trinity. Anyway, does it have to do with the 13th? I believe so. Yeah. um, okay, so then all day I kept getting this, the feelings, the words that like justice was coming, but justice in the sense of the truth, correction, balance, all of that. Um, okay, so then that night, yeah, it was Thursday night, minding my own business in the lounge room. Start to get all antsy, start to feel the energies going like, "Ooh, what's going on?" Up one end of the room, 12 beings of light is all I'll call them. Now, whether they were the original 12, who knows, but there was 12. And on the other end of the room came their opposite. And half of them were wearing, these were just light. I couldn't even tell you what they were wearing, if they were wearing anything. They were just light. The other 12, half of them were wearing red hooded robes and the other half were wearing white ones. And then I saw something that looked very similar to the final scene of the Dark Crystal. However, with it came a different understanding of what I was looking at. It wasn't what was playing out in the Dark Crystal. So in the Dark Crystal, you've got the Skeksis and the something else, and they're like the extreme light and extreme dark. And they merge and become a whole new being that's this blend of the two, which for me, okay, how do I explain this? As I was seeing it, it was like I got this huge zip file download and it's still been unpacking ever since. But in the Dark Crystal, it's like the being that they became was like this Abraxas character, this one who holds both equally. They became a third thing. It's just like there's so much truth in it, and yet there was just this little tweak. So it's like light, or let's say white and black merged and became grey. It's like, yeah, that all makes sense. It's all logical on the surface. I can see how that works, but it's not true. um, so what I was shown, if you are a being of unconditional love and just pumping pure light, you pump pure light, you cast no shadow. There has to be an obstruction, an obstacle for there to be a shadow cast. So, what cast the shadow? It was nothing more than a thought form, is what I was shown. It was that very question, that very thought form of what am I not? What is the opposite of me? What does that look like? What am I not? The thought form is what Jung called the shadow. It is what became the virus. That's the virus. It's our original thought form that, fuck. And we don't integrate it like in the dark crystal. We don't do that. We transmute it completely and dissolve it completely. And the truth in the dark crystal is, yes, we are changed by it in the sense that we are still beings of light, but we are beings of light that now have experienced pain, that now know compassion, that now know empathy. And all of that just makes us shine brighter, not turn us grey, not be okay with not being love. It actually makes us brighter beings of unconditional love and light. Uh, that this process of the transmutation of the shadow feels like it has just about to kick off. It happened, I think it was the 12 that I saw, because they are the template. You know what I mean? Like they have to do it first and then it just ripples. It's like they make it possible, it becomes a possibility. Um, so, transmuting shadows, it could be the thing that's happening moving forward for everyone. What else have I got in here? Some people, when I spent some time looking back on some of the people I've known. Okay. I would say prior to 2013, my life was pretty fucking normal. Even though I was, awake of sorts and had spiritual shit going on and had knowings and did all that stuff and was public with interviews and did radio show, did all that stuff. But my personal life was pretty stable. Same network of friends for many years. I just, life was normal. And then 2013 hit and everything went up, everything changed, including the kind of people that came into my life. And no, it's really sad to say, very, very, very few people turned out to be as advertised, right? Now, it might only take them a few weeks, it might take them a few months, it might take them a few years, but it turns out they end up being the exact opposite to what I thought they were. And I was looking back at a lot of these people and realizing that and sometimes I'd actually seen it happen in real time. And it made me think about possession and, we externalize these things. When somebody changes, some of you have probably seen this. Someone like just changed right in front of you. And we think, we say they're demon possessed or, there's exorcisms and, all that sort of stuff. But what if the only thing that really can possess you is this shadow of yours? And we feed that shadow unknowingly with everything we don't want to look at, with everything we don't want to feel, with everything we don't want to. But it's like it manipulates in order to make us feel icky about ourselves, and we feed that to that. Every time it gets you to act out of your heart and out of unconditional love, it's food for it. So depending on how often you've done that, might depend just how big, bad, and ugly your shadow got. And probably could look quite demonic. But as I was saying, looking back at some of these people, realizing I've actually seen with several either the moment that shadow tried to merge, because I do believe that's its objective. It wants to merge. It wants to be in charge. It wants to be in the driver's seat. And in order to do that, it needs to merge and get you to hold it. And some people have. They've not transmuted it. They've literally held it, and they just swing between the front seat, the driver's seat, and the back seat constantly. The fact that this has happened, this transmutation beginning, and then we get two 88s with the death of the Pope at 88 and the step down of Klaus at 88. What, within 24 hours of each other? There's Jace, I'm going to need you to come in here and explain all that shit to me, because I know it's all connected and I know it's very exciting, but fucking hell. I'm already feeling the ripple of this going out. And I haven't looked at chat, so I have no idea what you guys are actually been saying.
Yes, I am also glad you said that, because that, embracing your shadow thing never set well with me. The way I understood it and understand it is the shadow is the parts of ourselves that we've rejected. And so then you go to the loving yourself, loving those parts that you don't like about yourself. And when you do that, there is a merging, and it's a resolution. It's what did you say? Transmuted. It's
Yeah, but it
it's
feels like
transmuted through that.
it feels like there's a trick in there, right? Like
There
there's a
is there
there's a
is a trick
distinct
in there.
difference between transmuting it and merging with it. And it's like
Right,
we've been encouraged to
right,
merge with it rather than
right. And
transmute
in
it.
in psychology and stuff, in the inner child and all that loving yourself thing, that that was all transmuting it. They try to get you to embrace the darkness instead of, just embrace the darkness. Don't do anything with it. Let it take over, you know.
Be okay with it.
Yeah, exactly. Be okay with it. And that's the trick. That is not what you're supposed to do.
Isn't
And
it the
you
same?
merge
Like,
black and white and you got gray, and that like dims the light. But
Yes.
it is the opposite. When you accept your shadow, it brightens your light, you know, because
I've
you
known
have,
too, like I said, I've known too many people
oh,
now
yeah.
that you
Mhm.
see the two distinct personalities sitting in there, and they just keep taking
It's kind of
turns as to who's
freaky.
running the show. And
Yeah. And
and
I
they
had the
can
exact
be
same,
extremes.
very, yeah, I had the exact same experience in 2013. The whole world turned upside down. People, I was just stunned, at how one person in particular turned out to be the opposite of a sister-in-law. So, and I'm living with her, and oh my God, yeah, it was a loss,
Mm.
because this, there, yeah, a lot of that stuff happened then. But yeah, thank you for that about the shadow, because even though I understood what they were saying was wrong, I didn't have the the words to express the difference.
Either did I until this week. Okay, so there's so much in there, and um, Okay. We, because this is we'll just use the term shadow, right? This shadow that became the virus is our original creation. We are connected to it. It holds our frequency. So we are always holding some of it anyway. But what I really have come to understand, these people that we've just talked about, the ones who really do seem to flip between the two quite extremely, are probably some of the strongest among us, because this thing wants to merge and become the grey, right? But if you can hold it in such a way that you might be flipping between the two, but you haven't fully done the merge. So that takes strength. Those who have completely kind of gone to the dark side or become the virus in form are the ones who have actually completely merged with it and allowed it to sit in the driver's seat.